For a while now, the resentment towards billionaires has been on the rise as people criticize them of having too much and not giving nearly enough. We have people suggesting that individuals making over $10 million per year should be taxed at a whopping 70%, while others believe that billionaires are slave drivers. But when did becoming a billionaire transition from an aspiration to something that is looked down upon? Well, starting off, the number one reason billionaires receive criticism is because their wealth is perceived as unfair in a variety of different realms, starting with taxes. Not paying their fair share of taxes is one of the top complaints against billionaires. But is this actually true? For something to be unfair, it should be inaccessible to the average person. In other words, it should be a privilege of the rich. However, billionaires follow the same tax codes and rules as the average person. Thus, if the average person also grew their money using stocks or real estate or any other type of asset that provides capital gains, they too wouldn't have to pay taxes on this growth until they sell. But I get it, billionaires have a lot more money, so they can afford to pay a larger portion. Well, here's the thing, though billionaire wealth seems like a lot from our perspectives, it's not a lot from a national perspective. The total wealth held by billionaires in the US is $3.382 trillion, which is no doubt a lot of money. But again, not much for the government. Let's even forget about taxes. Even if you took their entire wealth, which adds up to $3.382 trillion, you wouldn't be able to fund the US government for a single year. At today's rate, you would barely be able to feed the government for over half a year. To put this in perspective, their cumulative wealth would barely be enough to pass just the first stimulus bill. And that's at today's spending levels. Imagine if Medicare was extended to everyone and only their incomes were taxed. Now, I'm not saying that billionaires are incapable of contributing more or that they shouldn't contribute more. Rather, I'm simply trying to show that billionaires are not the bottleneck to various welfare programs as many politicians suggest. Many politicians suggest that taxing the rich will solve everything from poverty and expensive healthcare to climate change in North Korea. And the truth is, countries that do achieve such welfare programs don't do it by taxing the rich alone, but rather taxing everyone, as taxing the rich alone is not nearly enough. For instance, the income tax in Denmark is 55.8%, the income tax in Sweden is 57.2%, and the income tax in Finland is 53.75%. It should also be noted that all of these countries have sales tax rates well over 20%. So not only do billionaires follow the same tax rules as everyone else, but taxing billionaires more is not the key to humanity's biggest issues, as you may have been told. It should also be pointed out that many of the richest billionaires, including Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Mark Zuckerberg, have pledged to give 99% of their wealth to charity at the time of their death. Not to mention, many of them have already donated tens of billions to noble causes. Next up, people often look down on billionaires as they perceive them as making billions off the backs of their employees. The company that is most often pointed to as running off of slave labor is of course Amazon. But here's the thing with Amazon, they literally cannot afford to pay more. People often point towards CEO Jeff Bezos as making tens of billions per year. However, you have to keep in mind that this isn't in the form of a paycheck from Amazon. 99.99% of Jeff Bezos' wealth growth is thanks to his ownership of Amazon stock. His cash salary from Amazon is a very modest $81,840. The other $1.6 million you see here was spent on various security measures to keep him safe. Moreover, he doesn't receive any additional stock unlike other top CEOs like Sundar Pichai from Google and Tim Cook from Apple, who receive hundreds of millions of dollars in stock every year. As for Amazon workers, the minimum wage at Amazon is already over double the minimum wage at $15 per hour, and this has been true for nearly 2 years now. The problem is that even increasing this by just another $6 per hour would cause Amazon to be unprofitable. So it's not like Jeff Bezos is making billions by not paying his employees. Amazon simply can't offer a higher salary because their profit margins are a very meager 3%. Conversely, companies that are very profitable do pay their employees very well. The median Google employee earns over $250,000 per year, and this is the same case with other top companies like Facebook. Furthermore, billionaires with tens of billions or hundreds of billions of dollars in wealth have created trillions in wealth for others. Going back to Jeff Bezos, him and his ex-wife only own 16% of Amazon. Considering that Amazon is worth well over $1.5 trillion, this means that he has created $1.32 trillion in wealth for others, or in other words, us. If you keep your money in a large bank such as Wells Fargo or Chase Bank, or if you invest in your company's 401k plan, which is managed by Fidelity or Vanguard, you have profited from Amazon. These institutions love to put your money into companies like Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft, as they provide phenomenal returns. Consequently, the companies of billionaires either pay their employees really well, or they pay as much as they possibly can. And as for their capital gains, though they may have tens or hundreds of billions in stocks themselves, they have created hundreds of billions, if not trillions, for the rest of us. And that brings me on to the final gripe that people have with billionaires, which is that they think they got it easy. Many people feel that a large portion of billionaires' wealth is handed down from their parents, and they don't think this is fair. But this is simply not true. A study of people worth over $30 million found that 67.7%, or 2/3 of these individuals, were completely self-made. 23.7% of them both inherited and created a substantial portion of their own wealth, and only 8.5% of these individuals inherited all of their money. This ratio becomes even stronger when you look at the richest people in the world. 9 out of the top 10 billionaires in the world are completely self-made. Mukesh Ambani is the only one who has inherited a significant amount, but he too has grown to a point where the majority of his wealth is self-made. Aside from the majority of billionaires having created their own wealth, it was by no means an easy journey either. It took Steve Jobs 32 years to release the iPhone after starting Apple. Amazon was sued by both Walmart and Barnes & Noble in the late 1990s, and it took Amazon till 2018, or 24 years, to actually make their e-commerce business profitable. Similarly, it took Elon Musk 18 years to simply get people to the International Space Station, and it took 10 years of Tesla being a public company for its potential to be finally realized by Wall Street. Evidently, most billionaires don't achieve success overnight, but that's the only part we see. We only see that Jack Ma is worth $50.3 billion today. We overlook the fact that at one point he was rejected from a job at KFC, and that he got rejected from Harvard 11 times. People simply criticize that Donald Trump has a rich dad. However, they overlook the fact that he was over $1 billion in debt at one point, and that he has lost over half his wealth since becoming president. I'm not saying these people worked any harder than the average hardworking individual. However, they have taken much bigger risks and created exponentially more value than the single mom working 16 hours a day at McDonald's or the nice neighborhood Uber driver. On top of this, most of them have failed several times, losing millions of dollars of their own money before finally making it. And most importantly, at the end of the day, their success has nothing to do with your success or lack of success. Taxing them more is not going to solve your problems, nor is it going to help you succeed. So let's drop the negative stigma surrounding billionaires and go back to aspiring to be one. After all, most of them were just like you and me not too long ago. But that's just what I think. Drop a like if you guys agree, and consider subscribing to see more questions logically answered. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.